Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the channel Stories and Lessons, where we share Bible stories, characters, parables, principles, and lessons. And because it's still the Easter season, we want to continue on our episode about the story surrounding Easter. So, in the last episode, we talked about the birth of Jesus. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the death of Jesus. It's really not something to be sad about because that's the whole essence of salvation. Jesus came to die for a purpose. So, like after the birth of Jesus, as Jesus was growing up, he went about doing good, he was performing miracles, he was teaching in the temple. He would teach from the Old Testament and what God expects. He talked about things to come, the kingdom of God and how God wants us to reconcile unto Him, the coming of the Holy Spirit. He did so many things, so many miracles, cast out demons, He fed many. He had disciples that were working with him. So Jesus had 12 disciples. So in all this time that Jesus was teaching in the temple, the elders and the priests, the religious priests at that time, they were not taking it too well. They didn't like Jesus' teaching and they believe it's blasphemy. How can you call yourself the Son of God? At a point, Jesus even said he's going to pull the temple down and rebuild it in 3 days, and they feel it's blasphemy. How can somebody say that? So they've been looking for a way to trap Jesus, by his words. So about the time of Passover, they sat down to discuss about how they are going to kill Jesus. But they felt because it was the Passover festival, they should not do it that time because they know the people will not be happy about it if they do it during Passover. But they were planning on how to kill Jesus. So Jesus and his disciple went to a man's house, a man called Simeon. He was with his disciple. And the woman came with an alabaster jar of expensive perfume and he poured it on Jesus' head. And the disciples were like, why would she do that? Why will you pour this kind of expensive oil? That this oil should have been sold and used to feed the poor. And Jesus was like, you will always have the poor among you. But this woman is preparing my body for my burial. Because that was a notable thing in the Bible. Because Jesus said, anywhere the good news is in preached, the act of this woman will be mentioned. So at this time, I told you Jesus had 12 disciples. So one of the disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was going to betray Jesus, he went to go and meet these priests and elders, the high priest, to tell them that, oh, do you really want to take Jesus? Are you really looking for how to get Jesus? I can help you. And they were so happy. And they gave him 30 pieces of silver for him to betray Jesus to them. And Judas Iscariot left. And from that time, he was looking for opportunity and ways for him to betray Jesus. And because it was Passover period, Jesus has told his disciples to go and prepare the Passover meal at a particular place. And when they sat down to have their Passover meal, which Jesus called the Last Supper, because that was going to be his last meal with his disciple, that when the next time that kind of meal will happen will be in his kingdom. And as they were having the meal, Jesus told the disciples about one of them that is amongst them, that is eating right there with them, is going to betray him. And all the disciples were wondering, no, that cannot be possible. We cannot betray you. Jesus, is it me? All of them one by one, they were asking if it is them. Am I the one that is going to betray you? Am I the one? And Judas Iscariot himself was there. And he too asked that, am I the one that is going to betray you? And Jesus told him, thou hast said it. And while they were still having the meal, Jesus took the bread, he broke it, and he gave thanks unto God and gave it to his disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he also took the cup, he gave thanks to, and he gave it to them and said, drink from it, all of you. And he said, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sin. He said they should do it in remembrance of him. After that, Jesus told his disciples that they were going to desert him. Desert means they are going to abandon him, they are going to leave him alone, when he needs them. And all of them were like, "No, Jesus, we cannot leave you, we cannot abandon you." Peter, especially. And Jesus told Peter, that Peter, even you, before the cock crows tonight, you are going to deny me 3 times. And Peter said, "No, that cannot happen. I would rather die." And the other disciples too, they said the same. And when they finished the Last Supper, the disciple and Jesus, they went to the olive grove, which was called Gethsemane. The disciples were with him, and Jesus wanted to go and pray. And he's asked his disciple to stay in one place, and he moved ahead to go and pray. He told them too to be praying while he went ahead to go and pray about the death, because he was so grieved, and he was asking God if the cup can pass over him, but yet that God's will be done. When he finished praying, he will come back to come and check his disciples. And whenever he comes back, he will see them sleeping. And Jesus will be like, "Why are you sleeping? Can't you just watch and pray for just this time?" Then he will go again to go and pray. By the time he will come back, they are sleeping. And he was going to go and pray the same prayer over and over again, like, "Can this cup pass over me?" Because he knew what was ahead of him. So he did this 3 times, going to go and pray and coming back to the disciple. After the third time, when he finished, Judas Iscariot, he wasn't there. He has gone to meet the priest, and the priest has given him some men, armed men, to come and take Jesus. And Judas Iscariot has told them that when we get there, because those people don't know Jesus, that when we get there, the person that I kiss is the one that is Jesus. That's the person we want to capture. So when they came, Jesus went to Jesus and he was like, "Rabbi," Rabbi means teacher, and he went and he kissed Jesus just like he has planned, so that those people can know who to arrest. And they came to Jesus, and Jesus told them that, "Why are you coming with all these swords and everything? You've always seen me in the temple. Why not arrest me?" And one of the disciples, they were just drew his own sword and he cut the ear of one of those men that came to come and arrest Jesus. And Jesus took the ear and he told them to stop, and he healed the person's ear, the slave's ear. And that was how they took Jesus, and the disciples, they fled. So they took Jesus to the high priest house. There, all the other elders and other priests, they gathered because they've been planning on how they were going to do it. And Peter was following them. So he had followed Jesus as they were taking him. He was following behind. He has gotten to the court. He sat down to know what was going to happen. And while he was seated there, some people recognized him 3 times. They will say, "You were one of them. You were one of those people that was following Jesus." And Peter would deny and say, "No, I don't know him. No." The first time, the second time, the third time. The third time that he denied, the cock crowed, and he remembered what Jesus had said, that he was going to deny him 3 times. So when Jesus was before the high priest, they were looking for false witnesses, people that will witness against Jesus, so that they will find what they will use to trap him. They will find an occasion for them to kill him like they planned. But all the false witnesses that were coming up, their stories were not adding up. But 2 of them came up and said, "This man, he said he was going to pull down the temple and he will rebuild it in 3 days." And the high priest was like, "What?" And the high priest came to Jesus and he was like, "Is it true that you are the Messiah?" And Jesus told him, "That you have said it yourself." And the high priest was like, "That's blasphemy. That's blasphemy. How can you call yourself the Son of God? How can you call yourself the Messiah?" And that was how they had something to trap Jesus with. And that was how the guards, they slapped him, they spat on him, they beat him. Oh. And they took him to Pilate, who was the Roman governor at that time. So when Judas Iscariot realized that they were going to condemn Jesus to death, he was remorseful. remorseful, meaning he repented. He felt bad, like, what have I done? What have I done to Jesus? So he now took the money that they gave him. He went back to those high priests and told them that, take your money, don't kill him, take your money. And they said, who cares? And he dropped the money and he left to go and hang himself. And those priests, they took the money and they were like, oh, this money, we can't take it to the temple, because they themselves, they know it's blood money, because that was the money that they used to buy Jesus, like his death. And they used the money to go and buy a plot of land, which they use for cemetery for foreigners. So when they took Jesus to Pilate, Pilate came out to meet them and he asked them what they wanted to do. And they told him, see, this man, he blasphemed and he called himself the Messiah, that they want him to be killed. And Pilate, Pilate took Jesus and he asked him, is what they are saying true? And Jesus did not say a word. And Pilate knew that Jesus was innocent and he didn't want to kill Jesus. And he went back again to go and ask them, do you want me to kill him, or I should just flog him? Because whatever he has done is not enough for you to kill him. Should I just ask for him to be flogged? And they kept saying, kill him, kill him. Even Pilate's wife had a dream and he told his husband that he should not have anything to do with the death of Jesus. So Pilate did not want to kill Jesus. Like I said, it was the period for the Passover festival. So there was a custom that during that time, Pilate will release one prisoner for them. Like, we will free one prisoner. So Pilate asked them, should I release Jesus to you, or I should release Barabbas? Barabbas was a notorious prisoner at that time. So I felt Pilate will have thought, oh, they won't want to free Barabbas so that he can free Jesus. But these people said, free Barabbas, crucify Jesus, that they want Jesus to be killed. And when Pilate could not do anything, he just asked for them to bring water for him, and he washed his hand, that he's not going to be responsible for the death of Jesus. And these people were still shouting because the high priest has instigated them. As in, instigated means they have told them into saying those things. And that was how Pilate washed his hand of Jesus' death. And these people were saying, we will take responsibility for it, because the high priest and the elders, they've told the people to say all those things. And that was how Pilate released Jesus to them to go and be crucified. So they took Jesus and they stripped him of his clothes, like they removed his clothes. They wore on him a scarlet robe, and they used thorn branches to make a crown of thorn, and they put it on his head. They spat on him, they beat him, they even mocked Jesus. And when they were tired of mocking him, they now removed the scarlet robe and they wore his clothes back on him, and they led him to go and crucify him. So as they were going along the way, they even saw a man named Simon who they forced to help Jesus carry the cross, and they led Jesus to the place of crucifixion called Golgotha, and they nailed Jesus to the cross. It was still during the day. They nailed Jesus to the cross. And people were there and they were mocking Jesus. Yes, you called yourself the Son of God. Can't you save yourself? Even the priests were saying, you called yourself the Messiah. You said you will rebuild the temple in 3 days. Why can't you save yourself now? If you can come down from the cross, then we will believe you. Even the prisoners that were hanged beside Jesus, one of them said, can't you save yourself if you call yourself the Son of God? And the other one said, how can you say that? We know that we are hanged because of what we have done. But this man is innocent and he's being crucified. And he now told Jesus that when you get to your kingdom, please remember me. And Jesus said, you will be with me in my kingdom. And they put a sign on Jesus, above Jesus's head, saying, this is the King of the Jew. The Bible said there was darkness all over the earth, that even the people that were there, everybody noticed it. And one of the guards of Pilate that was there, it was like, indeed, this is the Son of God. And about noontime, towards evening, and Jesus cried out to God and said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And it was saying it like Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. So the people that were there, they thought he was calling on Elijah. And Jesus gave up his spirit, like he released the spirit to death. And that brings us to the end of the account of the death of Jesus. In my next video, we will talk about the resurrection of Jesus. Have you subscribed to this channel? Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that whenever I drop a new story, you will be among the first to be notified. Also, do hit the like button and share with your friends. Until we meet again, bye.